I think that's when you started following me, was around then. And I remember like driving with my mentor back from the convention to the hotel and seeing that on my phone and just like wanting to cry.
The amount you care about the work that you do and the amount of time that you've put in to be able to do the work that you do is just nothing short of astounding.
In a nutshell, I think and hope that's what makes me different than other people. And that's what's like brought my success, is that I will not falter from my vision.
Yeah.
You know?
What's up, guys? Eden Body Art Studios podcast, the Eden BAS pod. And today I'm super stoked that Deanna's finally back for another episode.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be back. And I'm excited that we also have Bobby Johnson here in the studio. He's in town for a seminar that he's going to be hosting at our studio the next few days. He's been a big inspiration to many tattooers over the past many years. And he has his own very specific style. So I'm excited to hear his story.
Check out his work if you haven't already on Instagram at Glendale Bully. And yeah, this episode was a ton of fun. You guys are going to love it.
How are you addicted to Call of Duty?
I don't know.
How did you become
So
unaddicted?
I wasn't even like, I've never been a game person. Mm-hmm. And I went over to a friend's house and like super competitive kid. And he's like, oh, I should play this. And he just like laughed because I had no idea what I was doing, you know? You guys remember Colton, you remember the first time you played Call of Duty? I don't know if you've ever played, but you're just like, you know, you're just
bad.
It's bad. It's really bad. You're basically just walking around figuring out what you're doing and then getting killed. And he thinks it's funny. I have no idea what's going on, right? So I'm like, that was fun. Let me get a PlayStation. This was PlayStation 3, I think. And this was Modern Warfare 2 era.
Yeah.
And I would play, and then we played online, and then he would like, you're so bad, dude. You're so bad. So I was like, fuck you, dude. I'm going to get real good. And so I just got really good specifically because he was a cunt about it. I don't know. You want your words in here, but
we could leave it in.
Specifically because he was a dick about it. And then I got so good that he didn't want to play with me. But then I got addicted. So I was going, just like everybody does, you know, I was getting off of work, going home, playing Call of Duty. My girlfriend at the time would go to bed and be like, oh, I'm going to be in there in a minute. More times than not, she'd like be waking up for work and I'm like still playing.
Yeah.
And so I got super addicted. And it's honestly one of the only things, there's only two things in my life that I'm not humble about. And I think it's because I'm not good at them anymore, right?
Sure.
And they're also just, they don't matter. So one of them is I was really, really, really good at skateboarding as a kid, like real good, right?
Yeah.
I was on like a couple teams, local shops.
Oh, wow.
Like
how are you on a skateboarding team? Oh, like you're just sponsored by something?
just a sponsorship,
Okay, gotcha.
I guess. Teams maybe is a little too generic, but just sponsored, you know, they would flow me stuff. Local skate shop, same thing. And the other one is Call of Duty. Like I was YouTube good, you know?
Wow.
It's like running through all my kill streaks and then dying on purpose so I could run through my kill streaks again, you know?
Yeah.
Like 46-2 type shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then Black Ops came out. I was okay. And then I just kind of fell off, right? But I actually had to pull myself out of it because that's all I thought about. That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Right? I also noticed my mood was shitty. You know, if I like was having a bad game or had like a bad play, my mood was shitty. And I was like, what am I doing?
Wow.
Like, what is this that I'm doing? This is unproductive, right? And this was right before I got back into tattooing. So it was, you know, it was a perfect time to shut that down.
Yeah.
You know?
When you
need
say
to
when
do
you
productive
got
stuff.
back into tattooing, did you take a hiatus or something?
So, yeah, I had like a really big gap between my apprenticeship and full-time tattooing. About 7 years.
Dang, that
About 7
long?
years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah.
It really sucked. Getting into tattooing was really hard for me. You know, it was a fucking struggle.
Just for like, because traditional apprenticeships, just the general struggle of that, or?
No, I think, I guess generically I would have to just like start at the beginning.
Yeah.
But, so when I was 17, my buddies would get tattooed, right? They would go into this guy, get tattooed, and they would bring my designs, right? And I was emancipated at the time. It was actually the owner of the shop was a friend of mine's brother-in-law, and that's how we met him, right? But I was 17 at the time. I think I started getting tattooed by him when I was 16. But I was like, hey, I'm 16. I'm emancipated. I already had tattoos, and he was like, yeah, dude, I'll tattoo you. So this guy was tattooing me while I was underage, right?
Yeah.
All my friends were over age because I were of age, I guess, and I hung out with all of them because they were my brother's friends, right?
Yeah.
My group of friends were just my brother's friends, so everybody was always older than me. But they kept bringing my designs into this guy, and same thing. I would bring my own designs in. He'd kind of just reiterate whatever I brought in, kind of do his own rendition. And
this was in Utah?
This was in Utah, yeah. I was 17.
Yeah.
Bringing in my stuff. One of the days he said, hey, you ever thought about apprenticing, tattooing? And I was like, yeah. I'm 17, dude. That sounds fucking the coolest thing ever, right? And he was like, okay, cool. Come back here tonight at 8. And I was like, all right. And I had just no idea what to expect. Go back in at 8 p.m. And he's like, all right, go in that room. You're going to tattoo yourself.
Damn.
Wow.
Right off the bat.
And I was like, what? He was just like, yeah, you're going to tattoo yourself. And I was like, okay. And I'm shaking like a leaf, obviously. And he's like, just draw it on your leg. So why don't you just draw something on my leg and tattoo it, right? And I was like, I don't even know what to draw, like I don't. And I tried to draw a skull, and I'm 17 years old, right?
Yeah.
Shaking like a leaf. So he draws this skull on me, and I tattoo it. It takes like an hour and a half, and it's just lines. It's so
Is
fucked.
it still there?
Yeah, it's awful. I'll show you guys after.
I can't wait.
But the lines were just like trenches, just kept going over and over and over. And
I bet
then
that shit hurt.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was the worst. And then it healed, like 3 months later. But
Oh my God.
then he was like, yeah, you got the job. Come in tomorrow, 10 a.m. So
Dang, that was like an audition.
yeah, that was it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Damn.
It's just like,
That's
I went in
hardcore.
to get a tattoo one morning. And then the next morning I was like at my apprenticeship.
So you didn't have like a job at the time or anything?
So I did have a job. But I was emancipated, and I was actually doing this program called 3 to 6. It's just school from 3 to 6, right?
Oh, okay.
It's for troubled kids or kids like me who had to work. I had to work to pay rent and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so it was my schedule was pretty freed up, And so I show up. I have no idea. I've never looked into tattooing. I've never thought like I'm going to be a tattoo artist one day. None of this was like in my plans, right?
Yeah.
I'm 17. I'm like, that's not, I want to skateboard.
Yeah.
That's in my plans. And I go in, I just kind of start hovering over one of their artists, Andy, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just watching. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn how to tattoo,
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, cool. Well, the bathroom's dirty. And I was like, oh, I have to do shit. So I cleaned the bathroom, then I just learned all my apprentice duties, and I just wanted to learn how to tattoo, right?
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want the extended version? Or do you just want the fast version?
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
Because the fast version is still pretty long.
All right. Well, yeah, whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay,
we
so-
can do the fast version. I mean, we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about. So
Right. So, yeah, we'll just skip all that. But learned a couple. I started learning things about tattooing, right? Things that I wanted to tattoo, things that they did right, things that I noticed that they didn't do that other shops were doing, right? I had no comprehension of tattoos, right? I just was like, oh, this guy will tattoo me.
Yeah.
And I'm underage.
Nice.
You know? And I just wanted to have tattoos because they were cool.
Right.
And so at that shop, I just wanted to learn. You know, I've always been that kind of way. And I was only there for probably 4-6 months. I can't remember. It was really short. And as I was noticing, at the same time, I was noticing that these guys aren't doing, or at least doing the tattoos that I'm seeing in magazines and other things like that I've now discovered.
Yeah.
But they're, you know, they kind of treat me like shit, you know, and that's fine.
Wait, you said they were doing tattoos like you were seeing in magazines?
They were not.
Oh, okay.
They were awful.
Yeah.
And this is all fine. Even being treated like shit was fine. Like getting hazed, whatever. I'm like, this is part of the territory, right? But what I couldn't stand was one day I would be, dude, you're like the next thing. You know, they would tell me shit like that. Like you're a savant. You're like, you're the next this or whatever, right? And then the very next day I would be like, oh, you don't think you're replaceable, dude? You don't think you're fucking replaceable, right? And there were 2 other apprentices, right?
Yeah.
One of the apprentices came in like a couple days a week, and you might not see him for a couple of weeks. The other apprentice would show up 10, 11, 12 maybe, sometimes 1. I got to leave a little early, right? And by the time they got there, all the cleaning was done because of me.
Yeah.
Whenever any of the artists needed anything, they'd yell out my name, right?
Yeah.
I'm catering to everybody. I'm there all the time. And I'm fucking replaceable, dude. I don't even like step out, you know? I talk shit because that's just the way that I am, but the environment is shit talking, right?
Yeah.
I do what I'm told, whatever. So there was an incident where we had some walk-ins. Again, I'm 4 months removed from, hey, tattoo yourself.
Right.
Right. I'm tattooing clients.
Oh my God.
Like I'm thrown in.
Yeah. Damn.
In the pit. Right.
Yeah.
Well, one night this bachelorette party came in, there were like 12 girls.
Yeah. Oh my
and
God.
I'm, again, dude, I'm fucking freshly 18. I had started like, it was like almost a month to the day, just over a month till I was 18. Turned 18 in January. And I couldn't tattoo anybody until I was 18, right? But then as soon as I turned 18, I could tattoo people. So I was about 3 months into tattooing people, and me and this other artist stayed late to tattoo these people. And I was like, man, it's going to be hard to come in tomorrow early in the morning. And the other artist was like, oh, dude, I'm not coming in at 9. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, dude, we stayed late, man. We shouldn't have to come in. So I was like, oh, cool. So I went to my friend's house and got drunk and woke up to a bunch of calls and texts from the people at the shop. And I was like, fuck, I guess I fucked up, because they were used to me being there, right? Now they're accustomed to me taking care of everything. And now I'm not. And I was like, wow, I thought they would be hyped because like we stayed and did all those tattoos, you know?
Yeah.
And no, I got in, I was met with, the fuck are you doing? You coming in and out whenever you want. And again, like I think it was because I didn't I was always showing up. So when I didn't show up, then it's funny how that's a double standard, right? Like that's the problem kind of with America is like when you work really, really fucking hard, then it's always expected versus like the mediocre guy has like one good day and you're like, yo, look at Carl, that's dope. And you're like, dude, Carl's a bitch. I work twice as hard as Carl, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was the same thing. Oh, you think you're not replaceable? You walk around here like you're, you know, your shit doesn't stink, which is absolutely untrue. I'm just this insecure about everything as far as art wise goes, kid, you know. And then same thing with the other artist. It was actually ironically Andy, the dude who told me to clean the toilets, and he was like, "Dude, we should quit. We should quit. We'll just pack all of our stuff and we'll just." Like we had artwork and stuff hanging in frames, and we just like took our artwork out of the frames and hung the frames back up, like empty frames and things like that. So when they came in the next day, we were just gone. And that's how I quit my apprenticeship.
Wow.
So it was like 4 to 6 months. I can't, somewhere in there. It's been a really long time. It was a very short period of time, right? But then I had to get a job, and ironically, the same dude, brother-in-law, who got me into that shop also did refinery work, right? So I started doing refinery work. It was like 7 years of that. And in that time, I would be in and out of tattooing. I would try and work at shops, and there's a bunch of ins and outs to that stuff. But like the struggle was super hard because I was only working when I was furloughed, right? I was only in shops when I was furloughed. So it was a mess, man. It wasn't cool. But then I got into a shop permanently. This is a super ultra short version. And then I got into a shop permanently. I moved across the country to work at a shop. I rolled the dice because I wanted to get back into tattooing.
Damn.
And then, yeah, ultra short. Now I'm here.
How did you get into this last shop, or what made you want to go to this place?
So I was working at shops in between. Like I said, when I was furloughing, I would work at a shop here and there, do a couple of tattoos, and I would just draw. I would actually, I would watch tattoo shows, right? I would watch like Miami Ink and all those things, LA Ink and stuff. And people scoff at those, but I watched those with such intent. Like I wanted it so bad. I was like, I want to be these guys, you know, I want to be doing tattoos. So I would watch what they would do. I would study the tattoos that they would look at. I would, I don't know.
I wanted to be Kat Von D so badly.
Just want to be mama, you know? I would, every time they would tattoo, I would like, even if it were like a millisecond, I would just be like, oh, they're floating their needle. You see how he floats his needle like that? Or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I just really pay attention to, or like Kat, right? Like I would notice that like, look, it seems like when she does her black and gray, it seems like she kind of opens the skin up a little bit, right? With some light gray wash. And then she kind of builds up like shit like that, right? That maybe I still don't use those techniques, but there's still stuff that I would dial the fuck in, right? That was
kind of like taking anything you could get.
Anything I could get. That was sort of my apprenticeship, right? I would look at magazines and I would flip through them. I would make myself flip through magazines and just study them, right? Probably talk a little bit about that tomorrow, but anyway, my friend who I knew from another shop or from a previous shop was like, hey, come guest at the shop that I work at, or come work here, you know, you'll be busy. Because I just couldn't get busy, right? Because I was never settled down.
Yeah, never
and
full
then
time.
A bunch of other reasons. Mostly every other artist in there was not trying to help me get a clientele. Especially if I was gone. If they wanted to get tattooed by me, they'd just go, oh, I could tattoo you, you know?
Yeah.
So it was really difficult. But
was that at like one specific shop, or you were just kind of like
it was yeah. Well, a couple, but the same group of guys.
Gotcha.
And I just kind of moved wherever they moved just because I was like, I wasn't even in the circle. They just kind of let me have a corner, you know?
Yeah.
Which was cool, but I was like, man, I couldn't, dude. I don't even like tattoo. I tattoo like once a month. Like there's no way. And he was like, dude, you're probably better than half the people here. Just come guest. I didn't even know what a guest spot was back then, right?
Yeah.
But I was
and
like,
where was this new shop?
So I lived in Salt Lake. This is in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin.
Oh, shit.
Indiana.
Okay. Yeah.
Or excuse it. Wisconsin, Indiana? Wisconsin, Indiana, Pennsylvania, New York. In La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
At the very, very southwest tip of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere, little college town. And I was like, all right. So I go out there, guest, talk to the owner about possibly working there. And he's like, okay, cool. I can, if you want the job, it's yours. I can offer you 27.5%.
It's a weird number.
And I was like, What, like I pay you 27.5%? He was like, no, your take home is 27.5%. And I was like,
That's like nothing.
Where did he come up with that?
it's
number?
Yeah,
just,
also,
there's no way. I told him, I was like, there's no way I can do that, dude.
Was that like a normal thing back then? I've never heard of any. Okay.
No, this guy was an absolute diabolical dude. He's like, well, you should feel lucky. I usually start everyone at 22.5%.
Bullshit.
And I was like, and the dude who got me the job was like, yeah, I started off at 22.5.
No shit.
And
really?
he gives you at Christmas, he gives you if you've been there long enough, he'll give you a 2.5% raise in increments. And I think the cap was like 40% or whatever. But I was like, dude, there's no way that I can work here for that. There's no way. And so he so generously landed on 30%. And the person who got me the job was like, dude, you'll be busy. You'll make the money. You'll be fine. You'll be able to pay your bills, right? There's plenty of walk-ins. And we fucking worked. So anyway,
Yeah.
I go home. I'm like, yeah, I think, let's move to Wisconsin, I guess. Let's figure this out. Moved to Wisconsin, start tattooing. And we worked, man. We worked. We fucking every day, walk-ins.
Was that just like a street shop? You just tattooed?
Street
whatever
shop,
came in the door?
heavy street shop. There were appointments, but Saturdays were walk-ins only.
Yeah.
We would tattoo so many people on Saturday. There's literally a line.
Wow.
Just college kids. I'm
College
guessing.
kids, yeah. College kids and small town kids that are like, I want to get this tat, man.
What was the minimum there?
I don't know. I don't even remember the numbers, but I do remember thinking, fuck, they're going to pay me $1,000 for this tribal on his arm? Like, that's crazy, right?
That's actually like, that's probably a lot for back then.
Yeah, the prices were crazy. Like, on Saturday, it was like a kind of skeezy fucking game where it was like, well, how much can I get for this,
Okay, yeah.
But that's what you do when you're starving, if I make this shop $1,000, I'll make 300.
Yeah.
I gotta pay my bills.
That's like nothing. That's so low though.
Right, right.
That percentage.
The cut, right. So, yeah.
So this was like probably like 10 years ago, or
This was, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, 10 years, a little over 10.
yeah.
Probably 11. And that's why I say 12, because I had that little bit of an apprenticeship. And then I had the tattoos here and there
Yeah.
in a 7-year span. I tattooed this person or that person, a very, very small. I'm talking like once a month I tattooed. It was crazy.
Wow.
And then there was a couple of years where I just didn't tattoo because I was
Playing Call
living
of
in
Duty.
California or playing Call of Duty. Yeah, stuff like that, right? So
The important things,
right. So and that's how I. There's a lot more to the story, but that's how I got.
What happened after that? How'd you leave that shop?
So that's how I got started, right? I was like, and you know what? That shop, I was getting like $800 a week, and I was like, I can't believe it. This is sick.
Yeah.
It's like I'm paying my bills tattooing. Like, this is fucking crazy. This is what I wanted for 7 years. I'm paying my bills. I'm like making it happen, right? And then they had this convention, Best in the Midwest, right? And we were like, yo, let's go to this convention. It's gonna be sick.
Was this your first convention?
My very, very first convention. Super nervous. We got flash sheets ready, all of our artwork, portfolios, like just things that we wanted to do, right? We had a vision pretty right off the bat. Like, this is what I want to be doing, right? This is the kind of stuff I want to be doing. I don't want to show people this kind of work, that kind of work. I want to dial this shit in, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, it was like a mixture of like Eckel Derek Noble kind of had a baby, that kind of shit. Rachie, I think, was kind of a big deal too. Maybe Emily. But yeah, I was like, this is the kind of shit I want to do. And it was so new. I think there was like I'm not joking, 10 people, including the people I just mentioned that I knew of, that were doing this. Anything remotely like what is called annoyingly neo-traditional now. I don't understand that phrasing, especially because that term is so broad. Like anything new is, oh, that's neo-traditional. First of all, shut the fuck up. And second of all, also that. But yeah, so we got a lot of attention, right? By early Saturday morning, we're turning down tattoos. Hey, you guys have any time this weekend? No, sorry.
Wow.
No, it's and I was like, yo, that was dope.
Yeah.
It felt really cool. You know, like, wow, we got some attention, and guess what? We got to keep all of our money. You know?
Yeah.
We didn't have to pay 70%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pay 70%.
That's insane.
Like, I think about that, and I'm like, I will tell people the story of like 27.5%, and I'm like, I have to be like, yo, you're hearing me correctly. Like, I got paid 27.5%, and I'm not putting like a 10 on a 2. I'm not stretching the truth here.
Yeah.
Dude wanted to start me at 25, or no, at 27.5.
Yeah.
He was being generous. I forgot, and then we decided on 30. Anyway, so we go back, and you know, like, yo, let's do another convention. That was sick. Like, you know, we got a lot of attention there. And at the same time, I think at that time Facebook was a thing. Mm-hmm. And I was starting to
wasn't
meet,
around yet, right?
not yet. It was
Okay.
it was
Probably like just
it was
starting.
right there. It was like just coming into play, right? So it was perfect timing where I was meeting a bunch of people at conventions and Facebook, and now there's Instagram, and it was a smaller community back then, right? So like, tattooers would pop on, and you know, you'd shout somebody out, and I remember getting like 500 followers in a night, and I was like, 500 people followed me last night. I can't fucking believe this, you know, which is hilarious, but you know, it was such perfect timing, and next thing you know, we're doing conventions, right? Well, the shop slowed down, and in Wisconsin, I think the rise of like that sort of like just good tattooing in general was happening, but also in this little town, right? There were a couple shops a couple people left, and a couple shops were popping up that were like really good shops, and so people had options. There wasn't like a line out the door, and it was winter, and there's always a lull there anyway. So I was like, man, I can't fucking twiddle my fingers. I can't twiddle my thumbs. I wasn't even there a year, right? I can't twiddle my thumbs. I have to go back to refinery work. So I had to go back to refinery work, right?
No, really?
Right.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know this, but then I would do.
This was like after the convention, after like you started getting some traction in the industry with people.
Right. So like I got a giant peak in my career.
Yeah.
Can I also ask, like, can you describe sort of what your flash sheet and tattoos were looking like around this time?
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, all the people that you mentioned, I have no clue who they are.
Okay. Well, they're
but
awesome.
I haven't been in the industry that long, so yeah.
Pioneers, man. Kurt Bayer, he's actually a friend of mine as well, but he wasn't at the time. That sort of like, yeah, like a little darker for sure. Lots of devil horns, lots of red. Lots of like Victorian collared ladies with super runny mascara.
And these are the artists you're inspired by.
Right. Definitely
sort of
pulling from all of these guys. Not really like molding it into my own, but not quite.
I remember like the horn ladies like you used to do.
Right.
You know, a while back ago. So
right, very, very over the top stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
In my opinion, right? But it was really cool at the time. Nobody was really doing it, and so I had to go back to refinery work, right? Mm-hmm. But I still had this traction on Instagram and this traction on at conventions and things, right? And I made it seem as though I was tattooing full time. We had moved back to Salt Lake, right? My family. And I had made it seem as though I was still full-time tattooing. I tattoo here and there, but I was doing refinery work. And I was drawing all the times. Anytime I was off, I was like producing artwork and posting it on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it was. And we were going to do the Portland tattoo convention, right? And we had it set up to do. And my boss called me and was like, yo, I want you on this job, this refinery job. I did catalyst. I was a catalyst handler, but there's too many ins and outs to that. We're not going into that. And I was like, well, I'll go on this job. And it was about a month long. And I was like, but you have to fly me to Portland and back during this weekend. I have to go to Portland.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, no problem. Right. No issue. Because we traveled for catalyst work. It was all over the country. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm real familiar with Texas and things like that, because we would just go wherever the turnarounds were. Right. So I was working in California most of the time, but I lived in Salt Lake. So I'd fly to California. So I flew to California, did the job. Then he flew me Thursday night to Portland. I get cleaned up all in the airport, get into my normal clothes, meet up with my tattooer friends, and I'm tattooing in the weekend. And I remember somebody had come up to me and was like, yo, you're Glendale Bully? And I was like, yeah, man. He's like, I love your stuff so much. I'm like, oh, man, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Unless you were a 6'4" dude, no.
You never know.
Yeah, I don't know. Lots of surgeries now. But he's like, you got any openings this weekend? I was like, oh, dude, no, I'm sorry, I'm booked up, right? I booked up pretty fast, and he was like, oh man, I bet you're so booked at home, right? Like, I bet you're just like waiting list is super long. And I was like, kinda. And remember, I just flew in from working a fucking 12-hour shift job. Like 12 hours a day is how turnarounds work, right? It's 12 hours a day until the turnaround's done. And I was like, kinda. And I meet a bunch of people at the convention, and I meet Alex Vance. And he was like, wait, you still work a job? And I was like, yeah, on Monday I have to fly back and work a regular job. And he was like, how the fuck do you work a regular job? How are you not super busy? And I was like, I don't know. People out where I live don't want to get tattooed by me. And it's not like people don't get tattooed in Salt Lake, right?
Yeah.
Like I was telling you last night, it's a really, really tattooed city. It's a very tattooed city, right? And yeah, so I lost where I was here.
He was like, you're like,
He's
yeah,
like,
people
how
don't
are
want to
you-
get tattooed by me.
Right. So he's like, come guest at my shop, right? Like, come guest at my shop, dude. I have infinite amount of clients. I'm the only tattooer there, really, in this small town and all these smaller towns. It's the middle of nowhere, Iowa. And he's like, you can do whatever you want, right? These kids just want to get tattooed.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. Like, took his number, whatever. I go back to refinery work, and it's like another week, 2 weeks. And I just can't help but think like, man, maybe I can go work at this kid's shop and just tattoo for a little while, see how it is, you know?
Yeah.
And I told my boss, I was like, I don't want my flight to Salt Lake. I want you to fly me to Des Moines, Iowa. And he was like, okay. He never asked any questions.
Yeah.
And so I flew to Des Moines, Iowa, and I started tattooing. And he wasn't lying. He wasn't kidding. He had infinite amount of clients. I tattooed as much as I wanted, tattooed whatever I wanted for the most part, right? And then I started doing guest spots, and I worked there a lot. Right.
Yeah.
And then I would just like do a guest spot here or do a convention there. And then I met other people. And then I was like, oh shit. Like everywhere that I go, like if I go to Baltimore or wherever, there's always people that are like, are you booked up? So I decided, I'm going to book guest spots after these conventions and kind of stretch it out. Right. So I'd go, no, but I'm tattooing, here for the week or whatever. And I would book appointments, right? And I would kind of just like dry up the wells as I was going along, right?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I found myself almost exclusively doing conventions, right? And at this time, I had gotten a job at another shop in Salt Lake, but I was still traveling.
Were you like living out of your suitcase traveling? Did you have like a?
I had a place. I had a place in Salt Lake, kind of messy on that front, but yeah, had places on that front. But as in regards to tattooing, I was just like traveling around, right? And I would go home and tattoo the couple of clients, that I had. And I wasn't doing any large scale work at this time. I was just doing like bangers or, 2-3 session bangers. If that, I think it was mostly like one shot tattoos. And,
well, man, that's wild that you were more busy when you were traveling than you were at home. That's insane. I feel like with everybody else, it's the opposite, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, as you have heard, my tattoo, and this sounds cliche, but it was everything but normal. It was like anything but normal, right? And then I met Lauren, and we hit it off, right? And then she got pregnant with my son, and I was like, "Fuck, I need to like boogie. Like, I need to get a clientele I can't be traveling all the time, right?"
Yeah.
I can't be traveling all the time, so I just hunkered down at the shop that I was at, and I literally waited for walk-ins. Like I was this like invisible, obviously, like this like imaginary like entity, like this like Glendale Bully, but like Glendale Bully's sitting at home twiddling his fingers, can't barely do his style of tattoos at home, right? And then things picked up, and then I started tattooing people, and then they would see from Instagram things that I would do, and they were like, "Oh, I kind of want something like this." Like some people know what they want, but a lot of people don't know that they want your tattoos until they see them.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I've had a lot of people that are like, "Dude, I used to love getting realism, and now I only want," again, hate this term, but now all I want is neo-traditional tattoos, right? And I love that, but again, it's because they haven't seen it, right?
Yeah.
So then I started building clientele that way, and then people were like, "Yo, I want to. Where do you work? I want to come get tattooed by you." And I'd be like, "Oh, Salt Lake," and they're like, "Oh, okay. Any chance you're going to be in Texas or wherever?" They don't want to come to Salt Lake,
right?
It's like, man, maybe I'll move to. Lauren and I went to San Diego to visit, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I want to move to San Diego." She was like, yeah, duh. That's cool. Let's move to San Diego. So,
and so what was your like style of tattooing like at this point?
Always the same.
Okay.
It's always been in the vein of kind of what I'm doing now. It's just evolved, right?
Okay.
So I've always kind of done the animals, ladies, flowers.
Yeah.
It's always been in that realm. It's just kind of like dialed itself in, or like taken a softer turn here, or like, developed.
Would you put it in a genre, I know you don't like the term neo-traditional, but that's what I call it. Anything with hard, solid outlines, solid coloring, like color packing type of thing.
Right.
What would you say if you were to call like what style of tattooing yours is? I know it's very personal to you, but like, why do you not like neo-trad?
I don't like it for a couple of reasons. Number one, when I was young in my tattoo career, neo-traditional existed, but it was like it was traditional tattoos with just a slight spin. Like it was
like more colors roses, and stuff like that.
Yeah, really, really orange, maybe like a pop of teal, really, really spiky thorns, things like that, right? Or like like a traditional lady head, but with like, a spin on it, more black, or like that pop of color, or just like maybe a little bit, just a little different, right? And now, and that's that term. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's neo-traditional. And then I started doing what I was doing. And it wasn't called neo-traditional yet. I'm not saying that I made it up, but there was just nobody doing it. There were, like I said, there were like 10 people, and even at that time weren't doing similar tattoos, but they were like this sort of like wave, right? And it wasn't called neo-traditional. Neo-traditional was this other thing. So then people started calling this neo-traditional, and I was like, that's okay, that's fine. And now it's to the point where like new school with a spin is called neo-traditional as well. And you're just like, what are we doing here? Like, why can this not be like, why does it have to fall under this giant umbrella? It's like,
I can see how
black
it's a
and
pretty
gray
blanket.
Right. You have black and gray, you have color realism, you have dot work, geometry, and then you have like watercolor, and new school, and then everything else falls under neo-traditional.
Yeah.
What? Like, why?
Because
like,
I almost saw it as just like a style of application, even more so than a design, and it's just like the same way people call my stuff like color realism or black and gray realism. It doesn't feel right because I'm like, I don't just, put a picture and then copy it exactly. I add more stuff to it, but I never know what to call it.
Right. Well, here's an example, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with like Tony Donaire stuff. Tony, you guys know who Tony is?
I do not.
You know Tony stuff?
No, I don't.
Oh, you guys don't. I'm trying to think of a better example here. Okay. Tiffer.
Yeah.
We all know Tiffer.
Yep.
If you take Tiffer's tattoos, right, and you put them next to Justin's tattoos,
Yeah.
they don't look anything alike.
Right.
Both neo-traditional?
Yeah.
How?
I figured it's just application.
Right.
Color packing and black lines,
Right.
solid line
But
work.
it's almost a disservice to both of them.
Sure.
To not
I see
have
what
their
you're
own
saying.
Right.
subgenre.
To have their own niche. And obviously but like he's doing his own thing. And it's like, yeah, but like that's a pretty broad, like black and gray realism is black and gray realism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then again, you have people like Steve who work at the shop, who Steve can do the exact same portrait as anybody else, but he posts it, Steve did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just has a way of twisting it into his own thing, So
maybe it's
I guess
just
it's
like Bobby style or like Justin style this. Maybe like when I catch myself, it's not even like neo-traditional. It's like, oh, like a Bobby style tattoo or like
right. And
Tiffer.
I'm not, it doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter. You call it whatever you want. Honestly, just let me do my thing. But
But that's interesting. I never heard that, but
Yeah,
it makes
me
total
neither.
sense. Yeah. I mean, if you think about all the genres of tattooing, neo-traditional definitely seems like the most like broad, like so
Right.
many things could like fall in that. So you'd say, oh,
Right.
it's kind of neo-trad-y,
Right. And I think that,
And you've worked
it's the
so
most broad.
hard. You've worked so hard to make it to where like someone will see your piece and say like, oh, that's a Bobby Johnson tattoo. And then I could see how you wouldn't necessarily want that to just fall into everyone else's when you've worked so hard to create a style,
Right.
which is like the hardest thing to do in any art form, music, whatever, to create something that like is appealable to the eye. So it's not like so unique. It's like not appealable, but something good and something unique, like something that no one else has done.
Yeah,
at the
right.
same
So
time.
that's actually a good point. That's another reason that I, in an unhealthy way, it's gotten unhealthy, but I don't post very often, right? People don't think I tattoo. I fucking tattoo 5-6 days a week,
Yeah.
first of all, I don't want to saturate people with my content, right? Again, it's probably something I'll talk about tomorrow, but I don't want people to be saturated with my content. But it's gotten to a point where I'm also like, I want to at least have a little bit of separation. I don't care if people get inspired or even take from me, but I don't want everyone to see my stuff all the time, because then there's 8 or 10 of me and I can't separate myself. And that's not a don't rip me off. It's more of just like I just want to be, a little, 10 degrees of separation or whatever it might be. Just like I just want to create my own special thing, right? Definitely be inspired.
Yeah.
Definitely take from me. I mean, that's why we're doing, things like seminars, right? Like I want people to succeed. That's another reason that I and you and I kind of sifted through the applicants and like picked who we picked, because it was like, I want to help people that are almost there.
Yeah.
Right. So my goal isn't to not have people rip me off, so to speak. It's just more personal to me. I'm like, hey, let me get 3 or 4 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
Then you can have my old shit.
Yeah.
And when I'm ready to make a turn, I'll post my other stuff, and I'm already on some new shit. So you guys can have that all good. I'm over here now.
Yeah.
And
you're giving them more, not necessarily you, but a formula of how they can make their stuff better too.
Right. That's exactly. Yeah, that's exactly one of the big things.
I'm still thinking about how I just said appealable. Is that even a word?
I think so.
I meant
Appealing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's appealable now.
Appealable now.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, well, we've coined a new word right here live on the show.
I heard it. And that's actually where we're headed with this podcast, is we're going to just turn it into like making words up, right?
Yeah, that's our premise. That and basements.
It's a very making word upable podcast.
Right.
I also want to talk about too, just a little bit and share my story of how I first met you too, because we talked about you being at conventions all the time, and that's how I met you.
Yeah.
I had followed you for a while, and I was 20 years old. I'm going to be 30 this year, by the way. So it's a long time ago.
So 10 years, yeah.
Yeah. And I went to my very first convention, the Paradise Tattoo Convention.
Remember it. Yep. Lauren was pregnant. That was when I was like buckling down.
Wow. Yeah. And I was so like excited to go to my first convention, and I got spoiled because that convention was fucking awesome.
Cool. It was cool.
You know, and it was the first time I got a feel of it. And at that time, of course, I didn't have a lot of followers. I was an apprentice. I just looked up to you. And Sean Barber, who's just even a painter, not even a tattooer, Nico Hurtado, Paul Booth. I didn't even know too many people, but I know I was just so inspired by you.
It's weird that I don't know if you're isolating me because I'm sitting in front of you, or it was like actually me, because again, you're naming off all these people, Teresa, all these people were there, Kelly. And I'm like, you've got to just be isolating me because I'm here, because that was like a crazy, like stacked convention with all the talent.
Yeah.
Right,
No,
but I was
unbiasedly. Yeah. I've heard her talk about you before. I mean, definitely. Yeah. She sees you in that light,
Yeah. And I did
that's
before.
wild to me. Even now sitting here 10 years later, I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, it's true. And when I saw you, and I don't think I knew what you looked like or anything. I think you just had your name. I just saw Glendale Bully somewhere.
Right.
And I remember I was like, are you Glendale Bully?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm the biggest fan, and something that was so crazy to me is that when I met you, you were so cool. You actually traded a piece of artwork with me.
I still have yours. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is amazing that you still have it. And I remember I wanted this piece from you that was on the booth. And you were just like, yeah, why don't you just trade me a piece? So I ripped you off this piece. It was like on tracing paper that I had, but I had been working on it for a while, and I gave it to you in exchange for that. And I still have your piece, and cool. I got a picture with you and everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, I remember. I also remember the photo
up later.
Yeah. I got a picture with you and everything. I posted on Instagram. I saw that. I think that's when you started following me.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was around then. And I remember driving with my mentor, Joby, back from the convention to the hotel and seeing that on my phone and just like wanting to cry. You know, I was so excited. Funny. It was the first time an artist I looked up to followed me back or showed me like any type of respect for my artwork or anything like that. And it was just like this rush. And that's when I was like, fuck, like I wanted this so bad. I wanted respect from other artists. And I that was the first time I felt that. And it meant so much to me. So in case, you know,
that's cool.
You ever wondered the impact you make on others.
I really like hearing that more than, I really do. I've always tried to be, and of course you're going to catch me in a bad mood. I'm a human, you know, but especially in that environment, I've always tried to be that way. I'm glad that I love that story. I hope that other people have stories like that, right? I've tried to be just as fucking cool to people as like, I've actually just, I was going to touch about this tomorrow, but it's just kind of has a negative tone to it, but I've always kind of pushed back to that. I've had a pushback to that, like, traditional agenda, right? Because I remember being a fly on a wall and people treating me like shit, you know? Mm-hmm. And I would just be like, okay, we'll see. Just wait on it. We'll see. And then the same people would be like, they wouldn't even remember that I was this kid in this little scenario or whatever, right? That they treated like shit. And they'd be like, yo, Glendale Bully, Bobby, what's up? This is and I'm just like, and you know, in my head, I was like, when I get to that point, I'm going to make them feel like they made me feel. Mm. I didn't.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, you know, I wanted to be like, I fucking, you made me feel like just the smallest fucking human, not worth your time, you know? And I still was nice to them, but I didn't forget. Mm. Yeah. I sure as fuck didn't forget. Yeah, I can still remember who was what way to me, right? And so that's why I've always been that way to other artists, almost specifically, like not even so that people think that I'm cool and nice, but and yes, of course, because I'm a human and I want people to think that about me, but also that there's just people like that, not just me. Like there's people that are just cool as fuck, you know? People are cool as fuck, you know? There's all these dickheads, but it doesn't have to be like that, right? So I've always, and not in just that sense, but I've always pushed back this like traditional tattoo agenda, and people are like, oh, these fucking tattoo nerds, and look at these tattoo schools and shit. And I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Just shut up, dude. It's all good, man. You know? And here's the thing about, we're kind of spiraling here, but the thing about tattoo schools real quick, and just tattoos in general, this is probably something I'll say tomorrow. I don't know if I'll get to it, but just get better, right? Are you concerned?
Yeah.
Just get better.
Yeah.
And that's where like all of these things stem from is tattooers' insecurities, right?
Mm. Absolutely.
Like, oh, I'm not, you know, what am I going to do? There's all these other tattooers. Hey, just get better, work harder. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, oh, these young kids coming up. Okay. What are you going to do to keep up with these young kids? Right.
Yeah. It's the complainers are the ones that are just insecure because people are better than them and they have nothing better to do than to put them down.
But I feel like it's very rarely are people like, oh, I'm worried about these young kids. And that's what it is, even if they don't realize it. But it's always like manifesting from this place of like insecurity or like things that are like rooted in tradition or like, oh, we got to do like it this way because it's always been done this way. And what it really is they just don't want to get passed up, you know?
Right. And yeah, there's going to be a day where my back hurts and I have been passed up and people are crushing it and whatever, but that's fine.
Especially nowadays, like, you know, 10 years ago, there were so few, you know, you mentioned like the community was really small. But I feel like so many people are getting into tattooing nowadays. There's a lot of different ways you can get into it. I mean, it's definitely becoming like a way bigger industry.
Right.
And there are like a lot of really, really talented young people out there that are definitely, I can see how they'd be intimidating for, artists that have been around for a while.
Right. And here's the funny thing about anybody, and this goes for anybody who's like, oh, they're ripping me off. They're ripping me off, right? Everyone that I work with, you guys know who I work with, every one of them gets rips off all the time.
Yeah.
Even Mark.
Yeah.
Even Mark, you look at Mark's stuff and it's like, oh, and not downgrading Mark's stuff because he's fucking incredible. But the naked eye goes, oh, he just does like lines and blackouts. Well, no, he does lines. He does blackouts in his own fucking way. First of all, he's amazing at it. He's super fast at it.
Yeah.
And it's just the blackest black you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
And second of all, if you break down just his line drawings, they're smart. There's people that are trying to do palms like him and they can't because he knows what he's doing. Right. So anyway, back to, people getting ripped off or whatever. They're like, oh, I'm getting ripped off and people are ripping me off. And here's the thing. We can't tattoo the whole world. How many people do you need to tattoo? When I open my books,
you can only tattoo one person a day.
Right. When I open my books, I only take on like 30. I entertain 50 projects, right?
Yeah.
And that's, a good mixture of things. A larger upper thigh piece, a one-shot forearm tattoo, some sleeves, some backs, front, whatever. I don't even need to take 50 people.
Yeah.
How many days do you need to tattoo?
Yeah.
Really, the goal should be to set yourself up to tattoo less people. If you listen to my podcast, talked about this, you get good so that you can charge more, so that you don't have to work as often.
Yeah.
So that you have more time to make your tattoos even better.
Yeah.
So you can charge even more. It's a funny thing where you're like, hold on. The idea is to work less to charge more, or work less to make more. Yeah, because you're making a higher quality tattoo versus I couldn't make the tattoos that I make. I mean, I work a lot, but I couldn't make the tattoos that I make if I didn't make time to draw these things in advance, right? If I was tattooing like 6, 7, 8 days a week, or even I only tattoo one person a day, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it easy to free up nights to draw because I didn't have to draw for this piece or that piece or tomorrow's piece, whatever. But these people that want to do, 2, 3 tattoos in a day, where do you find the time to make the 2, 3 tattoos in a day as absolutely good as you can?
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is to, work less to make more money.
Well, so
right.
This is an interesting segue into one thing that I wanted to bring up. I just, as a tattoo collector myself, I feel like I have a pretty good landscape on kind of like the range of pricings, and what people charge.
I would agree with that, especially because you have a good array of different styles. So I guess.
Yeah. And you charge, what I would say would be like on the lower end of the day rate of definitely of people that I've been tattooed by at least.
Right.
And you have how does your booking process work? Because every time I go to your page, it says like books closed, no inquiries at this time.
It never doesn't say that.
Yeah.
Even when my books are open, that stays up because it's going to shut them right back down anyway. But I just go, hey, I'm going to open my books and, hopefully people give a fuck. And
on your Instagram story.
Goodness, on my story. Mm-hmm. And then they do. Whew.
Yeah.
And I just kind of book accordingly. But
but you probably always get like way more inquiries than you can handle, right?
Right. Definitely
people.
A lot more than I take on for sure.
Yeah.
I think because I do such minimal, hey, my books are open or my books are opening. I can't even remember the last time I put it on an actual post.
Yeah.
Like it was just been my story, right? But I get enough. Like I get plenty.
Yeah.
I get plenty. Thank goodness. I'm sure there's going to come a day where I'm like, well, fuck, maybe I should tattoo, or I should post, one of those 100 tattoos that have saved in my phone to drum up some inquiries. But, that's just, it's pretty simple.
So when we saw you in San Diego, you said something that like I think about like a lot, like, and it was kind of just in passing. But you were talking about like another artist that charges more than you, and you weren't shitting on this person or anything, but you were like, well, in my opinion, my stuff is better. But you said, if that's what they can get, then that's what it's worth. And I think about that all the time, that if that's what you can get people to pay for your tattoos, then that's what it's worth. So just from a business standpoint, I mean, you've got this huge backlog of people. You never even promote it. You can't tattoo all the people that you can only tattoo one person a day, So like, I'm just wondering, like, why not charge more for your stuff?
I'm getting there, I think, but I hope I didn't say my stuff is better. I hope there was a better way for me to put that, because it's subjective anyway.
I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was, yeah.
I remember the conversation, and I remember the tattooer, and I think it was more just, I'm more experienced than this tattooer.
And that's totally valid.
I know. I'll actually mention the tattooer. She's a really good friend of mine, and she's an incredible tattooer. Her name is Danielle Sky, and she's cool as fuck. I've been tattooing her for so long. But anyway, I think it was just that I've been tattooing a lot longer than her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'll clear the air. I don't remember specifically if you said that.
I just remember her telling me that and not feeling. She was like, "Oh, I was like, oh, how much you charging for a day?" And it was more than what I charge. And I remember not feeling away. I wasn't like, "Oh man, you charge more than me." I was like, "Hell yeah,
yeah,
good for you,
yeah,
fuck yeah, get that money." Especially not limited to, but especially because she's just such a hard worker, and she's fucking just a grinder, you know what I mean? And such a good person. So hearing that, I was like, hell yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
And especially for girls, honestly, like female tattooers, women tattooers, I don't know. Female's a touchy word. Women tattooers, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. So yeah, I was like, man, better. I don't usually use that.
I can't remember like exactly
especially
the conversation.
Just because artwork's subjective,
Yeah, but it just really stuck with me when you said, if that's what you can get, then that's what it's worth, sort of thing. So, but you said you're getting there. You're gradually raising your rates.
Yeah, and you know what? I have a really hard time with. I don't even have like an hour, like, oh, the day is going to be X amount, like X time, right?
Yeah.
My thing is, what did we get done, and how do I feel that it's worth X amount of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So I can't charge. Could I get more? Sure. Could I feel like it was worth it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like a larger forearm tattoo that takes me 8-9 hours. Sure. Could it be worth way more than what I charge? Yeah, definitely. But chipping away at a back piece and I get like a small part of the shoulder done, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's honestly just my, not even integrity, just my, I don't know.
Speed. Because it makes sense too. Like if you take more time to do your tattoos, it ultimately equals up to somebody who charges more in a day and gets more done. So.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I actually tell tattooers like Mark, right? I tell that are fast. I tell them, get your money, man. Like he does a full arm blackout in 2 sessions.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And a sleeve from me or Chris or Justin or whatever could take probably, anywhere from 5.5 to 7 sessions. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. Like the thought process that most people have, that if it doesn't take as long, then it's like worth less. But And you know, I talk about this a lot. Deanna's like a super fast tattooer. Like she can knock out a half sleeve in like, you know, a session a lot of the times. And I know for me personally as a tattoo collector, I fucking hate getting tattooed. It's not fun at all.
So you should pay more for
that's exactly
it getting done.
Yeah. It's like when people get their shit shipped to them, it's like they'll pay more for expedited shipping or whatever. So like, I know for me personally, I would pay more if I knew that they could get
and
it
that's my
done
point.
quicker.
That's why I'm like, yo, if you're doing these sleeves in 2 sessions in regards to Mark, dude, you should be like somewhere in the 2,500 mark at least, you know?
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is too, is like, it's not just about the time that you spent that day. You know, it's like, you know, if you spend 5 hours in a session, yeah, you spent 5 hours that day, but you've also spent 10 years developing your Bobby Johnson style, which is why people will go to you because you and you only, like you're the only person in the world that can do that tattoo, you know?
Right.
And that's why it's worth more than just like the time you spent, you know?
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. I also, what people don't realize, and this is really right here is what my seminar tomorrow is going to be about. The fucking time that it takes to formulate any of my tattoos is, even the most simple, is so fucking painful because I consider all things, how it's going to be on the body, you know, what it's going to lay like 2 days ago. 3 days ago, I had a back-to-back client, right? We started her leg sleeve. We did a forward-facing queen and a heart and a dagger, right? She was supposed to be like a Snow White, evil queen. And I wanted it straight on her thigh. I'm not exaggerating. This is drawing time aside, all that. I stenciled for 6 hours.
Jeez.
Trying to get it right.
Wow.
Because it had to be right. You know?
Yeah.
Just moving it, figuring it out, blowing this up, making this smaller, adjusting this, just to make it right, because I consider all things, right? And then we tattooed for 2.5-ish hours. And I had her the next day. So we just tattooed extra the next day to make up for that.
Right.
So that 6 hours, again, drawing time aside, I didn't charge for. Right. And these are some people like Justin will include that in the tattoo time.
Yeah.
Right. He'll include that.
Yeah. I mean, you're working for that person,
I think
working on the tattoo.
Right. And I think he's not wrong for that. But in instances like that, when it's 6 hours, like, is that really fair? You know?
I can for sure see the dilemma there.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's on me. Right. I could have not done a forward-facing queen, trying to get like all these things right, because the leg is a tricky thing to get it straight from the top of the thigh, knee, ankle. They're all 3 different points. They're not a straight line, so getting those things is tricky. But we got it. 6 hours, but we got it. You know, 8 stencils later, 8 large stencils too. So you're running it through the Thermofax 2, 3, 4 pages, cutting them up, taping them together, then laying a giant stencil. Then it doesn't work out, wash them, you know, stencil stuff again. Hopefully it'll work this time. Fuck, it doesn't. Got to make a new stencil. You know, it's these things don't get taken into consideration. Everyone's like, oh, but drawing time. It's like so much more than drawing time, you know. And that, but here's the thing: that time spent on everything, right? I actually, the way that I've worded this makes it sound like I'm going to do a seminar about stenciling tattoos for 6 hours. But it's the time spent, right?
Yeah.
On everything that makes you, right? I couldn't have my things the way that they are if I didn't take exactly the time to make my vision the way that I want it to be. I'll have people come up and be like, yo, what if you just did this? Like, I'm like, sure. That would definitely get me out of this dilemma, but it's not my vision.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah, that definitely would make it easier. Thank you for that. But I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, in a nutshell, I think and hope that's what makes me different than other people. And that's what's like brought my success, is that I will not falter from my vision.
Yeah.
You know? Obviously, you have to take big swings and fuck things up sometimes to make your vision happen. But
do you guys want to talk about specifically about the drawing process for Deanna's tattoo? Because I know that day took a really long time.
Right, that's a good example. Yeah, I mean that's a really good example of like it being a really tricky spot, right? Like the back of the forearm, not the top, but the back. Yeah, and then putting a flower. And I also like my stuff, like your tattoo is, like very structurally readable and you know, just flowy. It's like a balance between this like organic and very like, I don't know, like this industrial look, like just like straight lines. And I've got notes on my phone as to a better word for that.
And for everybody also listening, the tattoo that he did on my arm is, it's a tattoo that's on my elbow, down the side of my wrist, and then it flows over to my hand. So it's a really, really hard placement that I haven't seen anywhere else. And by the looks of it, it's crazy because like it flows so well that everything lines up no matter how I twist my arm, you know? And yeah, so
yeah, we'll post pictures of it on the story on the Instagram and everything. But yeah, it is a stunning tattoo.
Yeah.
Well, that means a lot. It means a lot because that was a fucking really
I think
stressful
Deanna,
tattoo for me.
It took like 6 hours to draw
start.
it, right? Yeah.
From when I got there to start tattooing.
This was day one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had to adjust things.
And you were like blowing things up, making it smaller. The swan head that I have towards my elbow, you know, you're making sure it's the right size, but it's an extremely hard placement that you got perfectly. And I don't know anybody else who probably would have gotten it right, you know, how it all just lines up here, but also you know,
I'm looking at it now and I'm like, man, I must have taken my time because I don't want to do that again. It looks great, but I do not want to do that again. Yeah, that was a tough one, but it's worth it to me.
Yeah,
that
dude, that says
worth
a lot
it to
about
me.
the fucking time that you put into something to like spend, just, you know, squeeze that juice as much as you possibly can to make that tattoo fucking perfect.
Right. The other thing that I like to consider when I do shit, and I think I considered it when I did Deanna's arm, is the other tattoos that are existing and filling that space up. Yeah. You know?
And I think that's, I know neo-trad's a bad word, so I'm not going to say that. But with your style specifically, you know, the lines, it's not just like realism where you can just blend it into other tattoos. You know, that's definitely, you know, it's kind of, it seems hard to me to fit that stuff together with other tattoos of that style. So the fact that you can do that so effortlessly. I mean, if you look at Deanna's sleeve, it's a mixture of a lot of things. You've got neo-traditional on the outside, you know, kind of a mixed style piece on the forearm, and then black and gray realism on the inner arm, and the way that it all flows together, just because all those artists are super fucking talented, and Bobby had the hardest job of all, placing that last piece right in that weird as fuck spot. That's like an art in itself right there. Yeah, just connecting those tattoos with each other. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. But it sucks.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah,
it's super
hard.
Like
I was saying, man, it's worth it. Yeah, because the way that came out is spectacular. So Deanna was talking about earlier about how, you know, she met you 10 years ago and she super looked up to you back then. Before, you know, a couple months ago when we were planning the seminar, she said I would fly anywhere and pay any amount of money to go to one of Bobby's seminars, and then you know, I've heard of other artists like DJ Tambi, like saying that you're his favorite artist, like artists that are objectively like super big in the industry.
Incredible.
Like, yeah. Incredible and super well known, super respected. Like, how does that feel to be so revered by such spectacular artists?
Not how you think. It really like piques my imposter syndrome. It's really fake. Like it's not that people are being fake, but it's like are they confusing me with someone? You know, like I'm not
Yeah.
sure that I'm I'm Bobby, right? Like I'm Glendale Bully, and and then people give me the reaction of like, I guess this isn't a real scenario, but the interaction in my head, if I were to like play it out, is like, that I'm me, right? Like, I think you're talking to the wrong person. They're like, no, you. And I'm like, in a movie where I'm like looking behind me to find the person that they're pointing at. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't possibly be me, Yeah. It's weird, dude. And that's another thing hopefully if I get to it, we'll talk about tomorrow, is balancing that is crazy. I work with I'm biased because they're my best friends and I work with them and I like their styles, but I work with some of the best tattooers in the world, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree.
The world,
Yeah.
And it's also, surreal that they're my best friends are the guys at the Grand Reaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't even know where I was going with that. It's just like, that's surreal,
Yeah.
And it's like, you mean like them? You must mean them, And it's weird. It's very weird. And it's not that I've ever thought that I was going to be that. I just wanted to be better and better and better and better. And like, I would shoot above the people above me.
Yeah.
I've always shot above the people above me. I think people have a hard time, again, talk about this tomorrow. They have a hard time with, they shoot for something, or like, if I can get close to that, then that's dope.
Yeah.
No, dude, fuck that. Better.
Yeah.
Better than that. Better than Jordan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's what
go ahead.
I think that's part of what has made you so successful, man. And just talking to you, the little that I have, when we met in San Diego and last night and today, and listening to your podcast too. I mean, the amount you care about the work that you do and the work that you've put into being able to do what you do is nothing short of just astounding. Like it's so fucking cool. Like how much you fucking care about, the product you're putting out and the stuff you do on people. And that really shows, man. I mean, you're obviously one of the most incredible tattoo artists in the world. And like people notice that, like people notice like the attention to detail that you put into your craft. It's really awesome, dude.
Right. Yeah. I thank you. That's just, again, I'm like, who, but yeah, I hope so. You know what I mean? And I super appreciate it. Back to imposter syndrome. It's really tough. I've gone through like genuine depression because people were like, "Yo, you're the guy."
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, you were depressed? That made you depressed? Yeah. Because I was like, yo, they're gonna know. They're gonna find out that I'm not like who they think that I am, I don't know what they're seeing, but how can I keep this charade up? I don't know how long I can keep this charade up. They're gonna know one day that I'm not and then it sends you into like a depression. And what are they seeing that they want to see that I should keep up? Like, what is it about the work that I'm doing that they love? How will I keep this up? Whatever, And I've really, really, really found a sweet spot in my career the last like year or two that I have just found like a good solid niche, right? A good solid flow where I'm just doing what I want to do and being happy and knowing that I've worked hard, but also knowing that there's work to be done.
Yeah.
Right? There's always, and I'm here and that's dope. And I need to understand that I am here.
Yeah.
Right? But I also need to remember that I'm not there yet. You know what I mean? And that's a tricky fucking thing to navigate.
I was going to ask you like how you balance that, because you've talked about your insecurities before, but then at the same time, you've got, like I said, artists like Deanna and DJ, just artists from all over the industry that are just like recognize how fucking talented you are. And I think that's, as an artist, it's a super tricky spot to be in because you want to recognize what you've done, but also, you know, you never want to stop innovating. You never want to stop pushing and getting better, you know?
Yeah. But that's a hard thing too. That's a hard thing to keep up with.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another mental battle. You also, this is something I should probably write down and note tomorrow. It's also okay to not feel inspired. Right. I've fought it for years, right? Where I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, just draw something cool, man. Like, be inspired, like draw. And you know what? Sometimes it's better to just go, nah, I'm not forcing it tonight. I'm just going to have a beer.
Yeah.
It would send me into a spiral where I'm depressed and I'm like, excuse me, I'm angry. You know, I'm angry at other people's success because I can't find it in me right now.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a whole nother thing which you have to navigate, right? Like being motivated, the trick to being motivated is not always forcing the motivation, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm very like, gotta keep going. And I've had to learn, like, dude, dial it back. Just chill. And it's made me such a like more even killed, level-headed person, you know?
And do you know how much time it takes for people to produce a painting or for someone to produce an album or a song? We're expected to produce every day.
Right.
So even when we're like not inspired and we're taking a break, you're still doing more than like most any other artist in any other profession in the world.
It is bonkers. I wish we had 10 hours to talk about everything on this podcast, because that's another thing I wanted to talk about. You know, just in your podcast, you guys were talking about Muka and how he came out with a calendar, and that's like, you know, a painting a month. And you guys, as two artists, have to do something like a fucking legit work of art, like every day on somebody, or every 2 days at the very least. You know, that's
right.
It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly that. That was a it's honestly, I hate thinking about that because I would love the opportunity to try that out. I'd love the opportunity to have a month and go, hey, dude, don't do anything but this painting this month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then just see what I could do.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Don't sweat it. Just do this painting. 4 days a week, 8 hours a day. Just do this painting for a month and see.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm based in that. Take your time and make it as good as you can. And I'd like to take like a door-sized canvas and paint it for a month.
Yeah.
You know, one day I'll get there.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Too bad you can't do that with tattooing. That'd be badass. Like, I'm going to do this bodysuit in a month. Like, that'd be fucking cool. But obviously,
right. I mean, even just designing it,
yeah,
would be nice to take all that time. I have a bunch of back pieces drawn right now for a book that's going to come out. You guys will be able to see some of them tomorrow.
Nice.
But I just took my time, hours, 30, 40. There's one that's 50 hours.
God
Wow.
damn, dude.
It's almost, I showed it to Justin the other day. And I was like, dude, I'm almost embarrassed that it took 50 hours. You know, I was kind of going over my stuff with him. He was helping me out. And I was like, I'm almost embarrassed that it took me 50 hours to do this. Like 40, 45, 48, something like that. And he's like, yeah, dude, but it looks like it.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like 40, 50 hours. You know, this is like not a, you know.
Yeah,
you
man,
just-
I think that story right there, I think that's basically sums up you as an artist, you know, about the attention you have and the care that you put into your stuff.
Hope so.
Yeah.
And I hope so. Yeah, you know what? That's enough about me right there. I was going to say something about Justin and gassing me up, but that's okay. For another time.
Yeah, so we're almost out of time. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, well, 50,000 other things that I want to talk about. But one thing that I was, you know, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is that you don't post very much. You probably how often would you say you post? Like once every other month or once every 3 months?
I don't even know, man. I'll go in flurries.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to figure out this Reels thing.
Yeah.
So that's a funny thing. Specifically right now, that's a really funny thing for me. And here I am. I'm like, I want to take a bunch of videos of my trip to Texas so I can kind of make a reel out of it. Haven't taken one video.
You just got here last night.
Right, but I'm like, oh, maybe like some cliche like traveling footage or whatever.
Eating
like,
canes.
God damn it. I can't remember. It's just not in. I don't give a fuck about that. Not that I don't want to do it. And I think they're cool and I'm interested in other people's things. But I don't remember. I don't give a fuck enough to remember, as much as I want to create them. So that's a tricky question. It's very few and far between.
Yeah.
I don't have like I should post something or whatever. I have so many tattoos that I haven't posted that are, in my opinion, really fucking cool, that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
That, another thing about tattooing, going back to posting anyway, going back to imposter syndrome, is that when I'm really proud of a tattoo, I don't want to post it on Instagram and it not do well.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to make me feel some type of way about my own work, right?
Yeah.
I don't want, 3,000 versus 8,000, 10,000 likes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To make me feel away,
I catch Deanna doing that all the time. I always try to stop her, but she'll post something. She'll be like, oh, this only got X amount of likes. Maybe it's not actually good. And I'm like, no, fuck that. Like, that's an awesome tattoo. You love that tattoo. Everyone in here loves that tattoo, but it's tough, man. It's tough. Like in this age of social media, not to
it's really
your
hard
worth on how many fucking likes you get on something,
Right.
It could be debilitating. Like I really still am trying to get out of this. Like, man, do I suck at tattooing? It really
no, but
sometimes I let it define, my work and stuff. So I know that's really hard.
Yeah.
To be afraid of happening.
And I know you
and I've been posting less now, like you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that you mentioned on the podcast that one reason that you don't or you mentioned it today actually, that you don't like posting too much because you don't want to oversaturate people with your stuff. You want every time they see your stuff to be more impactful. But man, I almost feel like with you, because so many people like your stuff so much, I feel like people want to see more of your stuff so badly. So one of the ideas you had with a seminar, and you're like, oh, maybe I could give out a sketchbook or something like that. And I was like, yes, dude, people will fucking eat it up because they want to see more of your stuff, dude, because you're doing fucking insane stuff every day,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I hope, there's a story I'm going to tell tomorrow about posting. I have a little thing on posting, but we'll get into it tomorrow. But it's specific to that and having that feeling, of, oh, did you see that? Did you see what X person posted? It's so sick, right? It's in regards to exactly that.
Yeah.
Because I think the opposite effect happens even if you're insanely good. The opposite effect happens when you're posting every single day.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll go into it a little bit more tomorrow, but when you post every single day, it doesn't matter if it's incredible. Cool. Saw it yesterday. Saw it the day before.
Yeah.
All good. Saw it. When you go on a diet, right? And then you have a cheat meal. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you just have that meal every day, it's just a meal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or cake, right?
Yeah.
Yo, this piece of cake is incredible. Do you want to eat the whole cake then? Do you want the whole cake? Because you can have cake tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Guess what? Cake's not cool anymore. I don't want cake ever again now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And one way that I do see that in a very much more tattooing example is we have so many talented artists at our studio. Not to brag, but I'm sure that you experience, something similar at your shop where the shit that everybody is doing every day is just fucking dope. Every day, and it's eventually you start to get numb to it. I know I definitely did with Deanna, where it's It's like she'll do a fucking phenomenal tattoo that's just like no one else has ever done anything like that, and it's like almost like it's not surprising, you know. It's like that's just what she does.
She just
or
rips.
Like,
that's the way.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you say that, and I'll talk about that tomorrow as well. But yeah, to a degree, for sure. But dude, I work with the guys, dude. Them boys, you know, it's real hard for me not to go in and go, fuck, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do get numb to it, but you know, it's not uncommon to be like, fuck, dude, I gotta get better, man.
Yeah.
I just gotta get better now. Cause dude's over here ripping, you know, and I think us as the boys, we've talked about it a lot. We kind of bounce back and forth. So it's just easy to want to keep going because they're going, and now you're going, and now they're going. And
too, that I think you guys all do kind of like a similar style. I mean, obviously everybody's super unique. Like you can tell who did what, but yeah, you guys kind of, you know, it's a little bit of a similar style. Yeah.
Right. So it's easy to get inspired. It's not
definitely
hard.
Yeah. And, if anybody hasn't been there, the Grand Reaper where Bobby works in San Diego, it's such a cool environment. It's not a very big shop, and it's just like this open room where it's like, you know, 6 dudes hanging out, and they're all like best friends. So they'll have like conversations across the room with each other, like they're just like hanging out and also tattooing. It's like a really cool like environment. It was really fun getting tattooed there. Yeah,
I'm glad, man. I think also the dudes I work with are so easy to work with. We all have the same mindset, right?
Yeah.
Especially in regards to the experience that you have, you know, the experience that you have coming into that environment, right? Whether the tattoos are going to handle themselves, we're all going to handle our business on that front, but everyone also wants the clients to feel respected and welcome and part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just a oddly special group of dudes. It wasn't just like, it's not even just talented dudes together, right?
Yeah.
It's so much more. It's everything. We just click, man.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well, we are pretty much out of time. Bobby's client's going to get pretty mad at me if I don't take him to the studio. So, but dude, we're so excited to have you here in Texas. We're so stoked for the seminar tomorrow, and we really appreciate you coming over here and just sharing some of your story. Cause the artist that, you have become today is, you know, fucking phenomenal. And it's cool to see like some of that backstory and how you got there. So
yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you having me too. It's nice to be on this end of a podcast.
Yeah.
How's it feel? Easy. So much easier than having to navigate and keep someone else talking. I can obviously talk all day. I can rattle, dude. So
and you can tomorrow.
Right, and I will. and getting other people to talk is tough, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, and thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Instagram already. We'll post some pictures up to give you some context of the stuff that we're talking about today at Eden BAS Pod, and then also follow Bobby on Instagram if you're not already at Glendale Bully. All right, well, thank you guys for listening. Until next time.